The first wedding happened while I was taking a nap. I woke to applause. For a moment, I thought I had dreamed it. Old houses make strange sounds in summer. Pipes click, floorboards sigh, birds strike gutters like clumsy burglars. Then came music. Not radio music, wedding music. Violins too cheerful to trust. I sat up in bed, adjusted my glasses, and listened. Laughter drifted through the open window. Then a woman shouted, "The bride is coming." I looked at the clock. 3:14 in the afternoon. On a Thursday, in my backyard. I was 71 years old, lived alone, and had not invited a bride. I rose slowly, tied my robe, and walked to the bedroom window that overlooked the garden. My backyard had become an event venue. White chairs lined the lawn in neat rows. A flower arch stood where my tomato beds used to be. Folding tables covered in linen stretched across the patio. String lights hung from my pear tree. A bartender in suspenders polished glasses beside my herb planters. And walking down the stone path in a satin dress was a young woman I had never seen in my life. I stood there in silence so complete I could hear my own pulse. Then I noticed the sign near the gate. Willow Gardens Private Events. My surname was Willow. My property was a garden. My son had apparently combined them. I opened the bedroom door and called down the hall. "Stephen," no answer. Of course not. He never answered the first time when honesty was involved. I went downstairs, each step slower than my temper deserved. The kitchen counters were covered with trays of pastries. Two teenagers in black shirts were filling champagne flutes beside my sink. One of them smiled at me politely. "Excuse me, ma'am, family only in the prep area." Family only. In my kitchen, he blinked. A woman with a clipboard swept in before I could continue. "Hi there, are you Nana?" I stared. "No." "Oh," she checked the clipboard. "You must be Evelyn." "My name is Margaret." She looked confused. "That's not what I have. Nothing today appears to be." I moved past her into the hallway. My son Stephen emerged from the den wearing a navy blazer and the expression of a man caught borrowing the moon. "Mom." "You're awake. Should I have remained unconscious for this?" He lowered his voice. "Can we not do this right now?" "Do what?" "Cause a scene." I looked through the back doors where strangers were seated on rented chairs in my grass. "You have imported the scene," he exhaled sharply. "I was going to tell you. When? After today. There are lies so lazy they arrive already tired." "What is happening in my yard?" "It's just a small ceremony." "In my yard?" "Yes. Without asking me. You were resting." "I have been resting since lunch." "Not since 1942. He rubbed his forehead. "Mom, please, this is a business opportunity." Ah, there it was. No family betrayal is complete without the phrase opportunity. He led me into the den and closed the door while wedding music floated through the walls. "I've been managing bookings for a few months." "A few what?" "Months." My knees nearly gave way, not from age but mathematics. "How many strangers have married behind my hydrangeas?" "Don't be dramatic." "How many?" He looked away. 11. 11. 11 weddings on the lawn, Frank seated by hand. 11 receptions on the patio he built over 3 summers. 11 times my neighbors watched cars arrive and assumed I had lost my mind or gained terrible taste. "You charged money." "Yes." "How much?" "It varies." "How much?" "Packages start at 3,000. I sat down because standing seemed too generous. My son had turned my backyard into a venue. "At $3,000 a wedding, without asking me." "Where is the money?" He brightened slightly, mistaking pause for surrender. "I reinvested most of it." Into course he had. "Into what?" "Marketing, equipment, some debt reduction." His debt, naturally. Stephen had been reducing his debts with other people's assets since adolescence. At 16, it was gas money from my purse. At 39, apparently it was bridal packages. "And why?" I asked very quietly. "Did someone call me confused?" He froze. That told me the answer existed. I repeated it. "Why did someone call me confused?" He tried a smile. "Mom, vendors ask questions, neighbors ask questions." "I just told people you get forgetful sometimes, so they wouldn't bother you." There are moments when a child stops being your child and becomes simply an adult responsible for what he has said. I looked at the man I raised. You told people I was mentally declining. It was easier. For whom? He opened his mouth, closed it. Outside, applause erupted. They had kissed, in my tomatoes. I stood, end it. What, the wedding? Are you insane? No. That diagnosis belongs elsewhere. Mom, there are 100 guests out there. Then you may disappoint them honestly. He stepped in front of the door. You can't do this. I smiled for the first time that day. The kind of smile Frank used to call dangerous calm. Stephen, I said, I haven't even started. Stephen knew that smile. Every child does. It is the smile that means a mother has finished explaining and begun deciding. He moved away from the door without realizing he had done it. Mom, listen carefully, he said, lowering his voice as if reason had just arrived. There are contracts involved, deposits, caterers, musicians. You cannot simply ruin people's wedding day. I tilted my head. You seemed comfortable risking mine. This is different. It always is when the inconvenience changes address. He spread his hands. You don't understand how much work I put into this. I looked through the den window at strangers drinking sparkling wine beside my basil. Oh, I understand labor. I simply prefer it done by the owner. He followed me into the kitchen. The clipboard woman intercepted us, still smiling professionally. Hi. We need the grandmother for a quick family photo with the bride's side. Stephen spoke first. No, she's confused today. There it was again, used casually now, a tool polished by repetition. The woman's smile faltered. I stepped forward. I am not confused, I said clearly. I am furious. Her eyes widened. I'm sorry. This is my house. My son rented it without permission. She stared at Stephen. He laughed too loudly. She jokes like this. I buried 2 husbands and still joke better than that. I had only buried 1 husband, but exaggeration has ceremonial uses. The 2 teenage servers froze with trays in hand. Clipboard woman turned pale. Stephen, is that true? He hissed through clenched teeth. Can we please speak privately? No, I said. You've used privacy enough. Then I opened the back doors and stepped onto the patio. 100 conversations dimmed. It is remarkable how quickly people notice an old woman in a robe when she looks purposeful. The bride and groom stood beneath the arch smiling for photographs. The photographer lowered his camera slowly. The bartender stopped polishing. Music continued for several awkward seconds before the violinist sensed danger and trailed off mid-note. I walked to the center of the patio. Good afternoon, I said. My voice carried better than I expected. I am Margaret Willow. This is my home. Murmurs spread instantly. The groom laughed uncertainly. Oh wow, we love character actors. No actor, I said, though several are present. The bride's smile collapsed. Stephen rushed outside behind me. Mom, I raised one hand. He stopped. Interesting. Many of you were told this venue is called Willow Gardens Private Events, I continued. That is true only in the sense that my last name is Willow, and this garden is private. A ripple of laughter moved through the guests. Good. Humiliation enters easier when escorted by humor. The bride looked at Stephen. What is she talking about? He stepped forward. Everyone relax, there's been a misunderstanding. No, I said. There has been fraud. That word lands differently in public. The groom's father, a broad man with expensive sunglasses, stood from the front row. We paid $12,000. I nodded. Then I hope you kept receipts. The bride burst into tears instantly. Efficient girl. The groom began swearing with impressive range. Clipboard woman whispered, I am so quitting. Stephen grabbed my arm. Enough. I removed his hand from me finger by finger. Do not touch the owner during business hours. Guests gasped. I rather enjoyed that. Then I addressed the crowd again. You may finish your photographs for 15 minutes. After that, everyone leaves. Food may be boxed. Gifts may be collected. But no reception, no speeches, and no one dances on Frank's paving stones. Who's Frank? Someone asked. My husband, I said. And unlike my son, he asked permission before using things. Even the violinist laughed. Stephen was shaking now with rage. You are destroying me. No, I said softly. I am introducing you. The groom's father marched toward him. You took our money. Stephen lifted both hands. I can refund portions. Some funds were allocated. To what? The man barked. Stephen said nothing. The bride removed her shoes and hurled one at him. It struck the flower arch. I admired her aim. Chaos bloomed quickly after that. Families arguing, guests filming, servers packing desserts into boxes for themselves. The bartender quietly loading premium liquor into his own car. Clipboard woman handing out business cards for another venue she apparently ran on weekends. I returned inside, made tea, and watched from the kitchen window. Never waste front row seats. 15 minutes later, I stepped outside with a brass bell from the hallway. Frank used it once to call children for dinner. I rang it 3 times. Time up. And because people instinctively obey clear authority when chaos exhausts them, they began leaving. Cars reversed across my lawn. Aunties gathered centerpieces. Children stole macarons. The bride sobbed into mascara while the groom argued with 3 cousins and a florist. Within 40 minutes, the yard looked like the aftermath of romance and poor management. Stephen remained on the patio surrounded by wilted roses. He looked at me with naked hatred. You always wanted me to fail. No, I said. I wanted you to work. He laughed bitterly. You think you're some queen because Dad left you a house. I walked closer. Your father left me partnership. You keep confusing that with luck. He kicked a chair across the grass. You owe me. Children say strange things in middle age. For what? For everything I did here. You mean trespassing? For growing the business. You mean lying? For taking care of you. I looked around at the extension cords through my kitchen. Window. The stranger's footprints in my garden. The rumors of confusion he had spread through town. Stephen, I said, name one thing you improved. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out, because facts are shy around men like that. He stormed inside, grabbed papers from the den, and slammed drawers until he found what he wanted, a leather folder, my property folder. He emerged waving it. I'll prove I had rights. I almost smiled. Frank had taught me years ago to keep decoys. That folder contains sprinkler warranties, old paint receipts, and a lasagna recipe. He opened it. I was correct. A recipe card fluttered onto the patio. Several guests still in the driveway laughed openly. His face turned purple. Then a black SUV pulled up at the curb. Out stepped my banker. And behind her, a police officer. I had made one phone call while the bride was throwing shoes. My banker, Helen Mercer, had the posture of a woman who trusted numbers more than people, and had been rewarded for it. She crossed the lawn in sensible heels, without once looking at the wilted flower arch. The officer followed at a pace that suggested he had seen stranger afternoons. Margaret, Helen said, as if arriving for tea rather than scandal. You sounded urgent. I dislike unauthorized commerce, I replied. She nodded once. Reasonable enough. Stephen straightened instantly. Helen, thank God. Can you explain to my mother that I'm handling venue income through family accounts? Helen turned her head slowly. Stephen, I would sooner explain whether to a toaster. The officer coughed to hide a smile. I gestured toward the patio chairs. Would anyone like to sit? Apparently we host events. No one sat. Helen opened her tablet. Margaret requested a review of unusual transactions linked to household service payments and digital deposits using her property address. Stephen paled. Ah. So there were records. Good. The remaining guests, now lingering shamelessly by their cars, drifted closer. Humans love justice most when free entertainment accompanies it. Helen continued. Over the last 6 months, deposits totaling $86,400 were routed through accounts associated with Stephen Willow Events LLC. I looked at my son. You formed a company, he swallowed. It was temporary. Companies rarely call themselves temporary, Helen scrolled. Charges included advertising, furniture rental, liquor invoices, drone photography, landscaping labor, and multiple cash withdrawals. The groom's father shouted from the driveway. Cash withdrawals, Stephen snapped back. Will you go home? No, the man yelled. I paid for salmon. Fair, the officer stepped forward. Sir, I need everyone not directly involved to remain calm. No one became calmer, but they appreciated the effort. I asked Helen the only number that mattered. How much did I receive? She looked up. Nothing. Even the birds seemed offended. Stephen spread his arms. I was building it first, then Mom would benefit. I laughed. There it is. The future reward promised by men enjoying present theft. He pointed at me. You never supported my businesses. I funded 3 of them. They failed because you doubted me. No, Helen said. The bakery failed because he spent equipment money on a motorcycle. Stephen turned crimson. The app failed because he never built an app, she added. I blinked. Helen, how do you know these things? She shrugged. I read loan files. Marvelous woman. The officer took out a small notebook. Mr. Willow, did you have written permission to operate a commercial venue on this property? Stephen hesitated. There is no more dangerous pause than one before a lie under uniform lighting. Yes, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Wonderful, show us. He patted pockets theatrically. It's inside. Go fetch it, I said. He did not move. The officer waited. Helen waited. I waited with decades of practice. Finally, Stephen muttered. It was verbal. No, I said. It was fictional. The bride, now mascara-striped but calmer, marched back up the drive with her shoes in hand. I want every penny back, Stephen barked. You'll get it. When? Soon, she slapped him, not hard, ceremonially. The guests applauded. Even I clapped once. The officer rubbed his temple. Folks, please, Helen spoke again. There is also a secondary issue. Stephen closed his eyes. Interesting. What issue? I asked. She turned the tablet toward me. Photos. My backyard photographed from flattering angles. Sunset lights, decorated tables, smiling couples, listings on 3 event websites, packages named after me. Margaret Gold Package Nana's Blessing Ceremony, add-on memory garden senior discount wedding bundle. I stared so long Helen gently lowered the screen. Nana, S what? I asked. Stephen mumbled, it tested well in marketing. I felt something inside me become extremely calm. There is anger, then there is the temperature beyond anger. I looked at the officer. Can one press charges for stupidity? Not directly, ma'am, pity. I looked back at Stephen. You sold my dignity as a package option. It was branding. You implied I blessed strangers for an extra fee. It included photos. I took one step toward him. He stepped back. Good instinct at last. Helen, I said, freeze any account connected to my name, address, or household utility history. Already initiated. Officer, he nodded. We'll need statements, records, and we may be discussing unauthorized business operations, misrepresentation, possible tax issues, and elder exploitation concerns. The words hit Stephen like hail. Mom, tell him no. No, you can't ruin my life over one misunderstanding. One misunderstanding, I pointed around the yard. 11 weddings. Then to Helen. $86,000. Then to the websites. Nana's blessing. Then to my own chest. And telling people I was confused. He began crying, public tears, sudden and glossy. I was once vulnerable to those. Experience vaccinates. Please, he said, I'm in debt. There it is, Helen murmured. I liked her more each minute. How much? I asked. He whispered 93,000. He nodded. The groom's father yelled again. He owes me salmon too. The officer sighed deeply. I folded my arms. You used my home to pay your debts. I was trying to fix it. No, you were feeding it. He sank into a chair among dead petals. For a second he looked small and human. Then he ruined it. If Dad were alive, he'd understand. No, I said quietly. If your father were alive, he'd have helped me stack the chairs while you explained yourself to police. That landed clean. The officer stepped closer. Mr. Willow, I'm going to need you downtown to discuss documentation. Stephen looked at me wildly. Mom, I held his gaze. You may call me mother when introducing me socially, I said. Today, use ma'am. Laughter broke across the driveway. He stood slowly, shoulders collapsed. As the officer guided him toward the SUV, Stephen turned once more. What am I supposed to do now? I looked at the ruined arch, the trampled grass, the stripped herb beds, the strangers driving away with boxed cake. Then I answered honestly. Start with refunds. He left in the back seat of a police car. I stood in my torn garden surrounded by silence and ribbon scraps. Helen slipped off her heels and picked up a folding chair. Where would you like these? She asked. I smiled. At last, I said, a useful guest. We stacked chairs until sunset. There is something deeply satisfying about undoing foolishness by hand. Helen worked efficiently, never wasting movement. We folded linens, gathered glassware, sorted rented items from stolen household items, and filled 3 trash bags with plastic flowers that looked offended to be touched. By 6 o'clock the yard resembled damage instead of deception. Mrs. Hanley appeared at the side gate, carrying casserole and binoculars. I brought dinner, she said, then lifted the binoculars slightly. And context. Come in, I told her. One of those is useful. She surveyed the wreckage with open delight. I knew something was wrong when they installed fairy lights without consulting your roses. Fairy lights are often the first sign of moral collapse, Helen agreed. We ate casserole on the back steps while dusk settled over the lawn. Mrs. Hanley provided a full report of neighborhood opinion. Apparently, many people suspected I had either lost my senses or joined a very energetic cult. Several neighbors had wondered why weddings kept ending before 10. One man across the street believed I was running witness protection ceremonies. I laughed until my ribs hurt. Then the laughter faded and tiredness arrived all at once. When betrayal is noisy, exhaustion waits politely until the audience leaves. Helen noticed first. You need rest. I need a new son. Less paperwork to rest, she said. Before leaving, she handed me a folder. Initial account notes, copies of listings, payment trails I could gather quickly. I opened it, spreadsheets, receipts, deposits, package names. There it was again. Nana's blessing add-on, $400. I closed the folder before I became criminal myself. The next morning brought 3 florists, 1 rental company, 2 furious brides, and a man asking for a chocolate fountain deposit. I handled them one by one at the front porch table with coffee, receipts, and unusual serenity. No, sir, I did not authorize a fountain. No, madam, I never approved doves. No. I cannot locate the ice sculpture of swans. When people realize the elderly woman they assumed confused is in fact the only competent person present, their tone improves rapidly. By noon, I had arranged returns for most vendors and given everyone Helen's contact information for documentation. By 2, local gossip had become local legend. Children rode bicycles past slowly. Cars paused unnecessarily. A woman from church dropped off pie for your nerves and stayed 40 minutes by accident. Then Lily arrived. My granddaughter came through the gate carrying 2 coffees and fury. I saw everything online. Online, she held up her phone. Someone had posted clips from the wedding disaster. There I was in my robe announcing ownership like a maritime queen. The bride throwing shoes had already become popular. One caption read, Grandma shuts down scam wedding empire. Another, never book a venue without meeting Nana. I considered this. Do I look strong? You look iconic. I accepted that. Lily hugged me tightly. I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner. You were lied to. I still should have checked. I touched her cheek. Then check now you're here. She smiled, then looked around the yard. So. What now? I glanced at the broken flower arch leaning into my lavender. Now we rebuild, she grinned. Can I help? You may start by deleting any video where my ankles look swollen. For the next week, Lily came daily. We restored beds, replanted herbs, scrubbed patio stones, and removed every trace of wedding glitter from the grass. Glitter survives like bitterness. While we worked, she told me truths no one had said aloud. Stephen had borrowed from cousins, promised investors impossible returns, claimed he was expanding hospitality ventures, told people I was thrilled to support him. Did anyone ask me directly? I said. She gave me a look. No one asks women they're using, sharp girl. By Friday, my son called from an unknown number. I answered because growth should be tested. Mom, yes, I need you to help clear this up. Which part? Police, taxes, refunds, lies, or flowers? This isn't funny. No, he sounded smaller than before. They're making it sound worse than it is. How much tax did you report? Silence. Stephen, a lot was cash. Ah, I was going to fix it. With another wedding, he groaned. Please, what do you want? Tell them you approved it. There are requests so outrageous they become clarifying gifts. No, you'd let your own son get charged. I'd let my own son meet reality. You hate me. No, I said quietly. I hate what you kept practicing. He hung up. Good. It saved time. 2 weeks later, Helen invited me to lunch. She chose a quiet place with linen napkins and staff who respected older women automatically. Rare establishment. Over soup, she slid another folder across the table. Your son's situation is messy. I assumed. However, there is an opportunity. That word again. I narrowed my eyes. Helen laughed. A real one, yours. Inside the folder were inquiries. 3 couples wanted refunds but also said the property was beautiful. A photographer asked whether bookings would continue under new management. A local planner wrote, if the owner is actually the woman in the video, I'd rather work with her. I stared at Helen. No, she smiled. Margaret. Yes, I am 71. You are organized, famous online, and own prime garden property. I am tired. You can nap between ceremonies. I laughed despite myself. I'm not turning my home into a circus. What about something elegant? Limited events, proper contracts, high prices, owner approved. I imagined it, my roses respected. No lies. No package named Nana. Music chosen before noon. Guests who knew whose land they stood on. Interesting. Lily loved the idea instantly. Mrs. Hanley demanded lifetime gate privileges. The church women offered catering before I finished the sentence. Within a month, Willow House garden events opened. Not many weddings, only 6 a year, carefully chosen, no drunken fireworks. No cheap dacre, no speeches insulting bridesmaids, and every contract included one clause in bold print: the owner may cancel any event for disrespect, fraud, or nonsense. Bookings filled in 3 days. Helen handled finances, Lily handled media, I handled interviews. How did you start this business? Couples asked. I always told the truth. My son tried to steal it first. They laughed, assuming joke. I never corrected them. Autumn arrived with golden leaves and my first legitimate ceremony. The bride asked if I would bless the marriage. I nearly refused on principle. Then she said, only if you mean it. So I stood beneath the pear tree in a blue coat and told 2 young people that love without honesty becomes management. They cried. Guests cried. Even I grew damp around the eyes. Later that night, after the last lantern was out, I sat alone on the patio Frank built. The garden glowed softly, order restored, profit honest. My name finally used with permission. A letter waited on the table. From Stephen. I did not open it yet. Some things can wait until morning. I left the letter unopened all night. That was not cruelty. It was luxury. For years, motherhood had trained me to treat every call, knock, crisis, and sigh as urgent. Children learn this quickly. They arrive bleeding from avoidable choices and expect immediate towels. At 71, I had discovered a rare pleasure: delay, so I slept. In the morning, I made coffee, watered the lavender, dead-headed roses, and only then returned to the patio table where Stephen's envelope waited beneath a stone dish. His handwriting looked rushed. Always a warning. Inside was a single page. Mom, I know you won't believe me, but I never meant for it to go this far. It started with one booking, then another. Then debt stacked up and I thought if I could just catch up, I could tell you once everything was fixed. I know I lied. I know I used your name. I know I embarrassed you. I'm staying with a friend. They may charge me. Helen says there are ways to make restitution. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I did think the place was beautiful. Stephen, I read it twice. Then I folded it neatly and placed it in the drawer where I kept receipts for fertilizer. Not because it belonged there. Because remorse, like fertilizer, can be useful later if handled carefully. The weeks that followed were full. Willow House garden events became unexpectedly fashionable among the sort of people who say curated with straight faces. We were booked through spring before winter began. I made rules. No drones, no glitter, no speeches longer than 4 minutes, no gender reveals under any circumstances. No one uses the phrase bridezilla on my property, and no planner may call me Nana. That last one required repetition. Lily turned the viral disaster into clever marketing. She posted tasteful photos of roses, candlelit tables, and handwritten menus beside short captions like, real owner, real contracts, real grandmother. I told her that was tacky. Then I asked how many bookings it generated. 7, she said. Carry on. My church friends volunteered themselves into a committee no one requested. They inspected linens, tested cakes, and judged centerpiece symmetry with military seriousness. Mrs. Hanley became unofficial head of perimeter intelligence. If a guest arrives drunk, she said, I can tell at 50 yards. I believed her. Then, in late November, Helen called. Stephen wants to meet. No, he wants to discuss repayment. Still no, he has cash. I paused. Interesting. We met in Helen's office because I believe in witnesses and fluorescent lighting. Stephen entered looking leaner, older, and dressed in clothes chosen for function rather than image. That alone marked progress. He carried a folder and did not attempt a hug. Excellent start. Mom, Stephen, Helen gestured to chairs. Sit, everyone behaves better seated. He sat. I remained standing long enough to enjoy the imbalance, then took my place. I sold the SUV, he said immediately. Good, the watch too. Better, I'm working warehouse nights and delivery weekends. Honest fatigue suits you, he almost smiled. I owe vendors taxes. Credit cards, and me. Yes. He slid a cashier's check across the desk, $5,000. I looked at it, then at him. This does not fix 86,000. I know. It does not fix my reputation. I know. It does not restore the tomatoes trampled by strangers. That nearly made Helen choke laughing. I know, he said again. I sat back. Then why are we here? He swallowed. Because it's the first money I earned without pretending. Well, there it was, a sentence with bones in it. Helen took the check, copied it, documented it, and placed it in a file. Good, she said. Now continue doing that repeatedly until old age. Stephen nodded. Then he looked at me carefully. I saw the website, and you made it work. No, I said, I removed you first. Helen openly laughed this time. He accepted it, another sign of growth. I wanted to ask something, he said. Dangerous phrase. No, I haven't asked yet. Practice hearing it. He rubbed his hands together. There's a company Christmas market. They need a small outdoor venue for one evening. I thought maybe, if I worked for you, set up only, paid labor. Interesting, no ownership language, no partnership fantasies, no family business. Work, I let silence do its job. Finally I said, what hourly rate do you believe you deserve? He blinked. Whatever is fair. First correct answer in years. Helen made notes while smiling into her coffee. You may work, I said, under supervision. Yours, God no, Mrs. Hanley S. His face fell. Helen nearly fell out of her chair. You'll report at 8 sharp, I continued. Late means gone. Complaining means gone. Borrowing tools without asking means gone. Calling yourself operations manager means gone. Yes, ma'am, that phrase again. Useful when sincere. The market event was held 2 weeks later. Stephen arrived at 7:45. Already better, Mrs. Hanley put him to work carrying tables, hanging lights, sweeping leaves, moving heaters, unloading crates, and being corrected in public whenever necessary. She enjoyed herself tremendously. At one point I found him kneeling in mud repairing an extension line. How is management? I asked. He looked up tired and dirty. Educational. Good. The evening succeeded beautifully. Mulled wine, music, local crafts, lanterns in the trees. Guests complimented the grounds, the atmosphere, the organization. No one knew the man emptying trash bins once sold fake wedding packages here. I did, and perhaps that was enough. After everyone left, Stephen helped stack chairs in the cold. We worked side by side without speaking for several minutes. Then he said quietly, "I used to think Dad liked work more than me." I kept stacking. "He liked character more than excuses." He nodded. "I know that now." I set down the last chair. "Knowing is cheap," I said. "Continue." He nodded again. No tears, no drama, just tired acceptance. That was worth more than $5,000. Spring returned. The garden bloomed fuller than before. Damage often leaves room for better roots. Bookings doubled. Lily moved into the carriage house and expanded the business online. Helen became partner whether she meant to or not. Mrs. Hanley demanded a title and was granted director of suspicion. Stephen kept working, sometimes at the venue, sometimes elsewhere. Always paid hourly, always on time. One Saturday, a bride asked during photos, "Mrs. Willow, what's the secret to a successful event?" I looked across the lawn where my son was carrying folding chairs without complaint. Then I answered honestly. "Clear contracts, good flowers, and consequences." She laughed, thinking it charming. I was not joking.